Everyone. My name is Ashley McPherson. I am the manager of alumni programs here at Girls Who Code. It is my honor to welcome you all to our session of Girls Who Code Talks, where we'll discuss crafting your perfect tech resume. I have the honor of introducing our moderator for this evening, Chelsea Williams, who is the founder and CEO of College Code. Following nearly 10 years on Wall Street managing and leading HR professionals, Chelsea founded College Code, a national consulting firm supporting the development and retention of diverse students and early stage professionals. To date, College Code has coached and trained 1,500 budding professionals across the United States, Europe, and Australia. Chelsea is deeply passionate about creating a more inclusive and equitable workplace and speaks regularly on the topic. She's been invited to engage employees and executives at Kate Spade, Moody's, Penguin Random House, PR Council, among others. We're extremely happy to have Chelsea over to her to introduce the panelists for this evening.
Thank you so much, Ashley, for the warm introduction. I am so excited to be here, as are our amazing panelists who I'm going to be introducing shortly. We're so excited today to discuss how to craft the perfect tech and tips to successfully get you past applicant tracking systems, ATS. For our viewers, please continue to use the chat box. We want to keep you engaged throughout the session. Share your thoughts, any questions you have, and a member of the Girls Who Code staff will be monitoring it throughout our hour together. So without further ado, I'm so excited to introduce our awesome panelists. First, Rachel Ward, a digital technology leadership program manager at Raytheon Technologies. She manages the entry-level rotational program designed to give associates an opportunity to learn and contribute to various business units while gaining leadership exposure. Outside of work, Rachel is actively involved in various volunteer efforts, which include tutoring and offer project management services. Welcome, Rachel. Now I'd like to introduce Anthony Holloway, Head of Talent at Wobot Health. His team is redefining how therapy and evidence-based mental health care is delivered to help millions of people live happier lives. When he's not recruiting talent, he's empowering talent through his Career Mastery course, a 4-week program that helps anyone looking to land a job without the stress of online applications. There's a lot of demand for that these days, huh, Anthony? That's awesome. And without further ado, Jasmine Harrison, lead college recruiting manager at AT&T College Recruiting. She's responsible for developing a top-tier talent pipeline and experience into AT&T's internship and development programs in the Atlanta market. Jasmine is an active member of the absolutely amazing Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated and Women of AT&T and various community organizations in Atlanta, Georgia. Welcome, panel. I'm happy to have you all join this evening. We're going to start off tonight with an icebreaker, followed by a question that will address the concerns of Girls Who Code college alumni and students across the country who are either beginning, matriculating, or ending their college experience. We'll end the conversation with a Q&A segment with some of the questions that have been submitted before today's session. So panelists, our icebreaker question is, at what age did you draft your first resume? And when you drafted, who helped you? So I want to give you some time to think about that question. I'm going to ask you all to answer in the order that you were, but before you do, viewers, I want you to get ready to answer. Icebreaker question using a poll feature. This question of the evening. Stay alert because you'll only have 30 seconds to respond. The box is up now. So you have 30 seconds to answer the question that's on the screen. So let's have someone go ahead and answer the question. So Anthony, can you answer that question for us? The first question about your resume?
Oh wait, I thought it was the order in which we were introduced.
Yeah, but we
I'll
switched
go.
it. It's okay. I switched the game up. I switched the game. Yeah.
I saw Rachel when you said that. I love this question. When it made me think. So I would say I did get my first job without my first resume. My first actual resume, I believe I was probably 21, 22. Because I had a lot of my jobs had been networking, talking to people, and kind of getting through the back door and tapping that network. So, yeah, I was actually in college, almost out of college, when I drafted my first resume, and Google helped me.
Google is your friend. Love it. Love to hear it. So really quickly before we go on to the other panelists for the icebreaker, we did have the results of the poll. So I want to share the results of the poll. 71% of our responders said yes to the question about the resume. So that's a good population of people. So proud, Girls Who Code. Love to see it. And for those who the answer isn't yes, we're going to be giving you some tools that we believe will be helpful for you. Okay, so let's just go back through the order. Rachel, do you mind answering that icebreaker question for us? You're on mute, Rachel.
Sorry, double mute. So my guess is gonna be 17 or 18, like senior year in high school. I think is probably the earliest I can remember in preparation for college, and probably my mom helped me.
Love it, love it.
Yeah,
I'm seeing in the chat a lot of people said my mom too, me too. A lot of co-signing.
Yeah, thanks, Mom.
Love it. And Jasmine, will you share with us your response to the icebreaker?
Yeah, I'm on the same board with Rachel. It was probably around 17, 18, preparing for college. I am a graduate of North Carolina A&T State University, so Aggie pride there. But yeah, it was, I built the resume around 17 and perfected it when I was in college for sure. So no worries if you haven't created it just yet. Google is your friend. Mom is always your friend. And college will certainly help you get that backing.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I had the same response. It was mom. It was in high school. I was preparing my freshman year for my first job, working at a beauty salon. I was the greeter in the front of the salon, and I had to have a resume for that. So I remember those days as well. So thank you so much, panelists, for the icebreaker. Participants, thank you so much for everything you're dropping into the chat. I'm hearing some and seeing some really great things. And again, to the poll question, we are so happy to hear that the first draft of your resume has already been complete. That's a big deal. That's the first step. And we're excited to unpack that through the session. So, okay, let's go ahead and prepare to go into our first question that's going to explore entering college. Most of the questions from viewers have been around formatting. It's a big question. Which sections are essential when applying for tech roles, and in which order should they be listed? Should candidates, excuse me, should candidates have a summary or objective line or not? And designs and colored fonts for Dazzle or basic template. So my question, I'm going to pose this to Anthony and Rachel, is what are key components every technical resume should have, and what are some guidelines that should be followed? Maybe we'll start with Rachel this time.
Oh man, I love this question, but I hate this question because it's twofold, right? So one is a little bit of personal preference, and then the other thing is every company has a different preference, right? So all three of us would give a completely different answer, I'm sure, right? Because all of our companies have different preferences. But for me, a couple of things that you referenced, so definitely one page when you're in college, right? Keep it to one page. You don't have that much experience that it should go beyond that. You know, if you have technical skills, write out some languages or some of the courses that you've taken is always good. I love, especially if we're talking about like user experience or design type work, that I kind of want to see that creativity in your resume, right? So I'm okay with some of the colors, not the neon green, right? But, you know, I'm okay with it being a little more creative, artistic. If that's the way that you're going in terms of the roles that you're looking for, that's more fitting to the personality. So I think those are some of my key tips, but some of it is you really got to put your personality into the resume. So you've got to figure out what's your personality and how to best get your personality onto paper, which isn't always the simplest thing. So also remember, you're going to go through tons of iterations of resumes, which is okay for the rest of your career. I literally probably had like 832 versions of my resume since I created my first one at 17 or 18, right? So I would say just, you know, be open to looking at others. Googling is always, you know, Google is always your best friend, and just iterating on it, you know, throughout your college career.
Yeah, I everything that Rachel said resonated with me. If you take nothing from this, what I would say my general overarching guideline is your resume is a marketing tool, not your life story. So we've all been on YouTube. You can skip a YouTube ad in 5 seconds. You have to treat your resume as an advertisement. And in order to do that, you do things like Rachel talked about, highlight the key components in terms of technical skills, whether it be, you know, JavaScript, HTML, CSS, but also tailoring it to the jobs that you're looking for. And then going along the lines of keeping your resume as this tool that's promoting and advertising you. Think about when you go on a website, if you want to go Girls Who Code website right now, half of the screen has the most important things that you need to see, right? To navigate, you know, what Girls Who Code is about. Same thing with your resume. Put those key skills, put URLs to projects that you've done that display your code. People want to see examples of your work, not that you just said that you did it. So yeah, we can dive deeper into that more, but I would say general guideline is treat it like a marketing tool. And if you think about it that way, then that'll help you go through those iterations that Rachel spoke about.
Yeah, great responses, panelists. And there was a question that came in the a chat that I'll just answer. What if you have not had formal experience? You haven't had a job yet. How do you think about that as someone who's preparing to go into college? And what I would say is think about the classes you've taken, if there have been any projects that have really stretched your skills. Even if you did something, you created a project for yourself. It wasn't through a class, but you spent significant time exploring a new concept or diving into a concept. All of that counts, and all of that is helpful. So use that as well as a part of your early journey of exposure. Okay. So thank you. Thank you so much, panelists. Now we're going to move to matriculating students, so students who are currently in college. The description for this session, we mentioned tips to successfully get past an applicant tracking system. What is an ATS? That's the acronym for applicant tracking system. TopResume.com defines an ATS as a type of software used during the hiring process to collect, sort, scan, and rank the job applications they receive for open positions. It's hard to weed out, it's easy to weed out unqualified applicants, so the recruiter can devote their time to evaluating candidates who are more likely to be a match for the position. So it's a time saver. Before diving too deep into the conversation, I want to make sure our viewers understand the function of an ATS, applicant tracking system. So we want to poll, another poll time. Was that definition that I just shared helpful? Scholars on the line, please respond accordingly. Was the definition of applicant tracking system helpful? All right, let's see the results. 90% said yes. So awesome. So now we can keep it moving. That's good. And you know what? A lot of people don't fully know the function of ATS. So we're happy that everyone here has general understanding. So now we can move forward with the question. So this is going to be for Rachel and Jasmine. Understanding applicant tracking systems act as electronic gatekeepers for employers. How should internship job seekers convey their skill set, experiences, and impact on their resumes to be identified as a qualified candidate? So maybe we will start with Jasmine for this question.
Okay, hi everyone. So we certainly, or most companies, all companies have some type of applicant tracking system, especially when it comes to things like in summer internships where you have, you know, up to 2,000 applicants in the pipeline. What it helps us to do is really bucketize the candidates into, you know, which skill set would match the best, and then, you know, which candidate, you know, would be a stellar candidate. But I say that in a twofold type of concept. It really requires, or it should require, the hiring manager or recruiter to look, hopefully, at as many applicants as they can. And what we try to do at AT&T certainly is to look at the most well-rounded candidate. So I'll give you an example. If you are a student who is super active on campus. I was very active when I was in school. You know, I had a lot of fun in college too. So I wasn't a 4.0 student. I also wasn't a 3.5 student either. So I teeter between the, you know, 2.9, 3.125. And so, but I also did like community activities. I had, you know, lots of leadership qualities. And so even though there should be, and oftentimes are disqualifiers within the applicant tracking system because you can't hire everyone, what we certainly try to do is make sure we're looking at the most well-rounded candidate. So when I'm interviewing, you know, students, you know, as they mentioned before about what's on your resume, I want to know about your projects. I want to know about, you know, the things that you're doing on campus. And even if you don't have, excuse me, a lot of that work experience, you can, you know, tell me about maybe some things that you're doing in your community that, you know, are super innovative or have some type of tech background. If you're teaching or, you know, mentoring someone younger than you, or things at your church. So all that to say, the applicant tracking system is the house, so to speak. And, you know, we bucketize the candidates into different rooms, and it helps us to navigate to the best candidate that has the best skill set for the job. I hope that answers that.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think that in the chat, there's been a lot of conversations just about what if I don't have enough experience? Even when you think about kind of keywords, how do you even think about keywords from an applicant tracking system? This wasn't technically a part of it, but is there anybody who wants to respond to the importance of keywords?
I can talk a little bit about that, because the one comment I really wanted to make, and this is going to sound really simple, right? But this is like, we see it a lot in terms of if there is a job description and it has either like the basic qualifications or minimum requirements, like either of those phrases listed, right? One of the simplest things you can do to get past even just that first screen is make sure that your resume includes those. List them, put them somewhere in there, right? If it says requires Java or Python, make sure you list Java or Python. If it says, you know, 3.0 minimum GPA, make sure you write your GPA, like literally the basic qualifications or minimum requirements. If it's listed in the job description, do everything you can to get all of those in your resume, right? Because one of the things that, you know, unfortunately, kind of to Jasmine's point of having, you know, 2,000 plus applicants potentially is, you know, recruiters don't want to have to go back and hunt you down to say, hey, you didn't put this on here, so I'm just confirming, do you have this, right? That's going to already put you in the bucket of, okay, maybe I'll come back to them if I can't find it with all of these people who already did list it, right? So that's one key thing for me, just off the bat. Make sure whatever's in the minimum section, that's in there.
So, yeah.
And I saw a question in the chat about, and we get this a lot, and Rachel, you could probably agree with this as well. You know, what about the student that doesn't have a GPA yet? You know, and recruitment seasons are, really heavy in the fall. We certainly put our, full court press, so to speak, in the fall. And then we're doing more of the low-hanging fruit in the spring. What I say to that is that you can always put your high school GPA, and that, we understand that you are a freshman and that you haven't, really gotten a GPA just yet. You speak to that, speak to, maybe some things that you've done in high school, because listen, I think, and especially in this time that we're living in, we really try to humanize the recruitment process. We were all there. We've all had, the experience of applying for jobs and looking for jobs and things. And so, again, to answer that particular question, put your high school GPA. And then also, put some of the courses, the core courses that you could be taking the first semester of your freshman year, maybe some projects and things that you're working on. Those projects are important. It shows what you're interested in. I saw another question that I did want to touch on briefly, and I'll be really quick. Do we look you up on social media? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So, and not like a gotcha type of moment, but, you always remember, no company wants you to affect bottom line.
Yeah. No, I'm so happy. Jasmine and Anthony both talked to you about marketing your personal brand. And I've heard the Girls Who Code scholars have awesome brands, but we have to remind you preparing to go into the workforce. So just keep that in mind. The other thing that I want to give everyone is homework. I know, giving homework in the summer is, I want you to go to Google and just type in, think about a role that you're interested in, a programmer role, if you're interested in data analysis type of role, anything in that space, just type that term in and a company that you're interested in, Google, Microsoft, AT&T, Raytheon, like everyone who's here, and just look at a job description of an analyst level role in a career that you're interested in. Like, it might seem intimidating, but just look at it, read what it says, look at some of the key words that they're highlighting, because I think that that's something I wish I had done earlier that'll give you some insight as students who are just exploring what's for you, okay? So let's keep it moving, because we want to get the panelists to speak. The next category is graduating students, okay? So in light of COVID-19, the job market has been sent into a frenzy. That's an understatement. Many employers receive several hundred applications for job openings. Although the tech job market is stable, hiring managers and recruiters' workloads only allow them to spend a couple of seconds reading before deciding whether to move forward or not. So this question is for Jasmine and Anthony. We'll start with Anthony. What elements can be added to perfect a good resume and make it stand out? And then after you have answered that, what should candidates completely avoid putting on their resume?
I got 2 tools that can help you perfect a good resume, and also help you build up your resume. And it builds off what you said, Chelsea, about reading some of these job descriptions. Like, if you're stressed, if you're facing imposter syndrome, if you're nervous, we understand that. So I would say a good homework assignment is 10 job descriptions you're interested in. And don't do anything else. Like, don't pressure yourself to write a resume, because what will happen is you start to just get comfortable with, like, oh, wow, I've seen Java 15 times. I've seen the word cross-functional team 8 times. And you just start to get more comfortable with it. And then I would say start thinking about your resume, because now you have context for how you can position and market yourself. So that's one. Second is the tools. So one is called jobscan.co, and another one is called recruiting.net. So JobScan, what you can do is you can paste a version of your resume, even if it's like V1 first draft, and you could paste a job description, and what it'll do, it'll run an algorithm and show you the words in the job description that you're missing. And that's a free tool. They have a paid version, but you get a few free chances. And the second is recruiting.net. So what you can do is, say, like you said, you want to be an analyst at AT&T, right? What you can do is you can look up people who work at AT&T that are already analysts and LinkedIn profile. and see, okay, what are the words that they're using? And it's jobscan.co actually.
Okay.
So yeah, 2 tools, and then one thing to do is just, as we said, think about how you market and position yourself, and using these tools. And as Chelsea said, reading a lot of job postings, especially at the companies you want to work with. That'll not only give you more confidence, but also more context for how to position yourself.
Jasmine, would you like to add?
Yeah, very good. I mean, that's really great advice. I would say leadership skills. If you have any type of leadership skills, programming languages, you know, look at the market, you know, that is becoming the norm to have some type of programming proficiency in some area. So I have that. And then any type of organizations, you know, community impact, I think, is really, really important now. Companies are looking more at, you know, what you're connected to, what you're passionate about, and because that ultimately leads to what you bring to work. And so, and then vice versa, we have the candidates that we interact with, they want to know, you know, what are you doing in the community? How do you feel about philanthropic work? So that's important. But, you know, what I would say, the don'ts, don't have misspelled words on your resume. That's like, no, that's number 1. And then 2, you know, if it's light, you know, if you don't have much to put on there, that's okay. You know, don't beat yourself up. You're going to get there. To Anthony's point, you got to get more confident in creating a resume around the content that leads to the content. So I would say no misspelled words, no, you know, weird margins. So all that normal stuff that you would think of. And then if you're in college, I can't stress this enough. And I speak from experience because I didn't take advantage of it enough when I was in school. Like I said, I had a lot of fun. But definitely you need to be attached at the hip to your career services office. They provide invaluable time and information, you know, as a recruiter, and, you know, in college recruiting, I'm talking to them probably 3 to 4 times a week. And so they have the pulse on the industry. And what I also like to tell candidates too is, you know, doing all of those things, it ultimately leads to ensuring that your juice is worth the squeeze, which means, you know, you can back up what you have on that resume. So yeah, that's my feedback.
Good stuff. Just love this panelist team, and the questions in the chat are awesome. Panelists, feel free at any point to answer some of these questions. I'm trying to help the scholars as well. Now, I did find a tool earlier an article earlier in the week that I wanted to share that I think is helpful. And the article, I'm just going to highlight a few things, talked about the hard skills or the technical skills that are necessary for particular roles. And so I just want to 30 seconds share them with you. For those of you who are interested in web development, proficiency in HTML, CSS, and JavaScript are typically a must. For those who are interested in cybersecurity, knowledge of programming and scripting languages is desired by employers, along with a track record of analyzing maybe malware or data sets. So anytime you're working with data or Excel, that can be helpful. If you're interested in data science, candidates should prop their expertise into modeling. So modeling analysis, which also typically will require Excel. Machine learning. You'll want some proficiency in Python or experience with GPU, which is a computer and data mining system. And the final one is programmers. You should be strong in SAS and languages like SQL, okay? And so we've talked about that before. Let's get into some of the other questions, because we've got, what do we have, about 30 minutes together, a little bit less than that. So our first question is around LinkedIn. And we've been seeing in the chat a lot of questions about LinkedIn. So LinkedIn seems to be the new resume for recruiters and employers. Should I list the same information on my resume as I do on my LinkedIn page? Who wants to tackle that one?
I'll start. I'll start. I love this area because I loop, you know, LinkedIn and Instagram and all that, you know, I loop it in together. And I was joking, you know, earlier, not really, that we do look at your social, because we do, and not necessarily as a gotcha moment, but also like in a positive way. You know, if you're doing really cool things on Instagram, like on campus or in your community or what have you, like I want to see. I think that's awesome. And we also use those type of platforms to recruit. You know, lots of companies, and when you're scrolling through Instagram or scrolling through LinkedIn, you see these targeted ads that you might have been talking about, you know, for your interviews, and now it's popped up, you know, on your Instagram feed. All of those things are, you know, essential in marketing yourself. And so I certainly use LinkedIn a lot. I post on LinkedIn. I look at articles on LinkedIn. Companies now are pushing more information through LinkedIn. We can connect with candidates via chat, via, you know, different postings. So it's a really cool tool to engage with potential hires, and also to get some of the questions that you have answered. And to Anthony's point earlier about looking at, you know, goals that other people have that you may be interested in, that's a great way to do that. You can see their LinkedIn profile, you can see what they like, you can see who they're connected to, you know, your people connect with my people type of thing. And so I, you know, believe that it is your digital resume. It gives a good idea of what your vibe is like, you know, what you're interested in type of thing. So I've seen a lot of questions around, you know, how old do you have to be to have a LinkedIn? You know, what do you need to do? Just create one. If you don't have a professional profile picture, my background right now in my apartment is white. You can put on a nice, you know, outfit and do just a complete little headshot and put that up there. Definitely doesn't need to be any selfies or anything like that. But but I really do feel like LinkedIn has been super beneficial to lots of companies, and AT&T being one of them.
Fantastic. Is there anyone else who wants to add in on LinkedIn? It's a very important topic. Okay. Oh, Anthony, yeah, please hop in.
Yeah, I would say to Jasmine's point, just like other platforms, right? You have Instagram. I'm sure there's people you follow on Instagram. There's communities, whether it's about fashion, whether it's different, you know, things that you're into, whether it's different brands that you follow, right? And LinkedIn is that powerful, but for jobs, right? So even if you created like a bare minimum LinkedIn and all you did was just like posts and follow people and companies, again, that also starts to build your confidence. You're like, oh, like I understand this LinkedIn thing. So also don't feel as though you have to figure out everything at once. Like, oh, I gotta have my great resume and my LinkedIn and my experience. And no, like first start to understand these tools and how powerful they are, and then start to build upon that, and including, you know, everything else that Jasmine said.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, let's go to the next question. So someone said, I do not have particularly strong transcripts and also lack formal work experience. This came up earlier. How can I craft a compelling resume and still present myself as a strong candidate? So if we can give, for this question, if we can think about any specific examples you all can think about, like that you've had on the job where a student has really showed you strong skills regardless of grades or anything, that would be helpful. So whoever'd like to take it. Rachel, do you have a thought?
Yes, I'll start on that one. So I think, and I think we've touched on this several times tonight, but I think this is where you can really highlight your leadership skills, your volunteer activities, your campus, you know, organizations, projects that you've done in class, right? It doesn't always have to be formal work experience, right? Anything that highlights your interest and your skill sets is great, right? You can link to like your GitHub page if you have projects on there. You can put that on your resume. There are different ways to still, you know, project yourself in a good light outside of just your GPA, right? I think Jasmine mentioned it before. We're looking for well-rounded, right? And that's not always in a number, right? And people have different circumstances on why that their GPA is the way that it is. So we want to see kind of that broad horizon of different experiences that you're participating in. And I think one thing that's important is the skill sets area, right? A lot of people sometimes have skills listed there, right? So you can add on different skills and then also putting something maybe unique. Now this is this is a very particular story that I had, super random, but I was interviewing a candidate, right? And she, you know, had tons of leadership and community. You know, she did fairly well in school. And then in her interest area, right, she listed, you know, volunteering, and then it said mallard duck caller. If anybody, so a mallard duck, it's literally, it's like the green, it's like a green and black duck. So she literally, one of her skills was mallard duck caller, right? And I literally followed up with her because that made her stand out in the pool of, this is a super random skill / interest. And I was like, I kind of want to know more, right? So sometimes also putting something very unique or specific to you that, again, shows your personality, like Anthony was talking about, marketing yourself, right? It's not always about marketing. Yes, I know C++ and I know Java, but also I'm a mallard duck caller. Really? What does that mean? What do you do, right? That is also very intriguing to recruiters. So adding a little bit of your personality will go a long way as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Any other thoughts on that question?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would just say
I
really
feel
quick.
like people are going to start learning how to
I know.
call
I'm
ducks.
like, what? Ducks.
Sorry, I'm reading the comments.
Like she's talking to the ducks and the bosses. But from the GPA standpoint, I'll give you a very real, you know, example. You know, I had a candidate that had a 2.5 GPA, and they worked through school. They were a part of or president of some particular organization, and they didn't live on campus. So it was all of these different things. But they had, you know, project experience, or they had community experience, and they, you know, did other things. Now, the qualifier for our program was a 3.0, but there was another area, you know, for this candidate to funnel in, so all was not lost. And I really encourage students to not get hung up so much on the GPA. I mean, do well in school, but you know, everybody's not a, you know, 4.0 student. Everyone's not a 3.5 student. Some people are not a 3.0 student, but you have those, you know, really strong interpersonal skills. You have strong technical skills. You know, you may learn a different way or absorb information a different way. It's about telling that right story, to Anthony and Rachel's point, marketing yourself in the right way and doing those things to make you, you know, even more competitive. So, but you can like have a super low GPA and you don't do nothing in school and you don't, you know, that's not gonna work either. So, but you know, you have to be well-rounded in all areas.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Anthony.
20 seconds, my 2 cents is that another example, I don't know the young woman personally, but a few years ago, I saw a woman, young Black woman who got an internship at Spotify. Now, again, I don't know how her grades were, but again, back to this theme of marketing, how do you position yourself, right? Your story, as Jasmine spoke about. Maybe this young candidate's resume or GPA wasn't high, but the story in terms of what they did. And a few years ago, and I can share this article, but this woman, she applied to Spotify with a playlist. So she actually added Spotify on Twitter and said, hey, here's a playlist that represents my love for other Black artists and why I would be a good fit for your internship. So it's not always about, let me get the right keywords for my resume and let me get the ETS. It's like, how are you going to stand out and touch somebody like Rachel or Jasmine, such that when they get on a panel, they're actually mentioning you because you were so memorable. Right?
Yeah. Anthony, that's powerful, because I think sometimes, to the point Rachel brought, sometimes the things we think are least important are the things that catch people's eye. So if you're trying to craft a perfect resume, it may not be so perfect. So be authentic and let your personality come through. That's really powerful. Rachel shared in the chat. Rachel, you've been adding some really powerful stuff, but Rachel said hackathons are really great opportunities, right? And I was also thinking about if students go to like Grace Hopper or any major conferences that are giving them exposure, they should be adding them to their resume. Yes. So I guess my point here is, other than things like hackathon and conferences, is there any other like really interesting things that you love to see on resumes?
Student works. Definitely. I was, I was in SGA, in a sorority, all that stuff. I mean, it's great to be involved, right? Like it's great to be a member, but I would love to see how you lead, how you partner, what you do in the community. And then, also, things that interest you, like just in general. I mean, if you are a, electrical engineering major or maybe a marketing major, but you like gaming on the side, that's also those transferable skills. I love to see that because, I was a marketing major, but I started in network engineering. And so to be able to pivot, in certain areas, to Anthony's point about being bold and marketing yourself in the right way, to Rachel's point about the hackathons, all those things are really, really cool. And you have to, don't saturate your resume with all that stuff. Don't put everything, but put the most impactful, the most authentic, the most intentional things on your resume.
Yep. In 10 seconds, can someone tell us what a hackathon is? 10 seconds is short, but does someone have an ability to tell us what is a hackathon? It was asked in the chat. Are we able to give?
So my 10-second hackathon is, it's a competition where you're generally put on teams and you have some type of coding challenge to achieve in a specific time frame. Kind of the quickest explanation.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Perfect, Rachel. Perfect. And she's saying, wow, thank you. So good. So really quickly, we do have one more question on networking that I can't wait to ask the group. But there was a question that I saw that came in that was on like if you should be listing courses, like relevant courses. How do you feel, like what kind of student or graduate should be listing under their degree the courses that they took? Is that a waste of space or is it helpful?
I would say no more than 4. And they have to be very specific to the role. So if you are, looking at a technical, like a data analyst, and you've, in advanced statistics and some type of, mathematical course, though that's important. But if you're listing out, your course catalog, that's not gonna work. So don't do that.
Yeah. And I would just add to that I really look at the course listing as a filler a lot of times. So in replacement of, if you don't have experiences, that can help sometimes fill up space. So if you're a freshman, your first year and you want to focus on some of the core courses, or it's your first year in your major and you don't have internship or specific experience or project experience yet, then sometimes those key core courses are helpful to list out there as well.
Yeah. The only other thing that I would add is if you're a non-technical major for any reason and you're interested in the tech space, and so if you're doing a social science, if you're doing a humanities major, for instance, but you're interested in going into tech, you'll want to show the recruiter that you've taken classes that are related to the job. So great. Thank you, team, for answering that. Final question. So someone said, I'm currently completing my last internship and will be graduating in the fall. Although I haven't completed the internship, is it okay? Is it okay to connect with other recruiters? So if you are in an internship, you're not finished with your internship yet, but you're thinking about other opportunities, can you reach out? If so, how do you reach out effectively?
I'm sorry, Chelsea. So you looked away, and in that second that you looked away, we had a special guest run in the background of Rachel.
Sorry, my 2-year-old son made a breakaway. My husband had to come get him. So sorry. Thank you for all the great comments, everyone.
Yes,
This
is
very
real live.
I love it. I love it.
This is real life. Okay?
It's
This is
real.
virtual
It's
working,
real.
Okay.
You say he wants to get in too. That was really cute. So that's all the that was all the chat. Okay, so question one more time. Say it one more time.
That's okay. Okay, that was great. Because I'm like, what's going on? I'm missing it. But the question is, someone's in an internship and they are not done with their internship, but they're wanting to connect with another employer. How do you do that in an effective way? Like, what does it look like for you to make the update? And basically it's a network. I think it's a networking and exposure conversation to other opportunities. Like, how do you think that through?
I'll start. I think it's always great to network and expand your network, cast the net broadly, as long as you're not losing focus on what you're currently doing. So as long as it's like a stepping stone. So let's say if you intern somewhere and you are meeting all the requirements and you're doing everything you're supposed to do, but you just really don't feel like you're going to be connected ultimately with that company, just based on how you feel. And that happens. I mean, so making a connection to another company where you have some interest, that's okay. It's just, you're building that experience. Now, don't do it in a way where you're, you know, like ghosting the other company. That's whack, don't do that. But always be professional and just say, hey, I want to expand my network. I want to have an informational interview. I love that because you're not making anyone commit to anything, yet you are kind of interviewing for something that you have an interest in. So nothing wrong with that. Just do it in a very professional manner.
Yeah.
And I definitely think as you get to, so if we're talking about summer internships, for example, as you get to the end of the summer, you should be actively updating your resume. One of the great things about updating your resume is doing it when the information is fresh, right? So honestly, the end of your summer internship is the perfect time to update your resume because what you've done is fresh in your mind. So it's okay to go ahead and update that and start applying. As Jasmine mentioned, you know, be open with the current company you're interning with to see if there are current opportunities, you know, and let them know that you're, you know, looking for future opportunities as well, elsewhere and within the company.
Yes. And so perfect responses. A few things that I wanted to highlight since we're talking. The first one was, there was a question from someone that said, you say we should be specific to the role in which we're applying, but also to diversify ourselves and show our interest. This is a contradiction. How can we manage the two? So can someone just share, or I'm happy to, in a few seconds, how do you balance being specific in your resume with those keywords and showing your competence, but also showing your personality? Because that's really what the person's trying to get at. What do you think?
I think personality can come through in a couple of different ways. So it can come through in resume format or design, right? It can also come through in your skills or leadership activity section. But being specific about the role and your skill sets should come through in, you know, coursework, in technical skills, in projects, in work experience. But there's always a section on leadership and community involvement, and that's where you can highlight some more of your personality.
Yep. There was a question also that I see Ashley posed. How many sections should you have on your resume? How many bullets? We all have 4 different answers.
I just would say make them even, you know, like, you know, don't let it be an odd number of bullets. That's just me. You know, I would say, you know, your education, your experience, your, you know, interests, 3, and then the bullets under each should be even. You don't want to put the entire job description under the specific job. You're just highlighting the major points of the job or of the work or of the project, you know. That's what I would say.
And I would also say, I like the question, but I think a better question is, how are you resonating with the audience or the job that you're trying to get, right? versus the number of bullets and the margin, and right, it's really, okay, if I want to work at AT&T and I want to be an analyst, okay, what do those profiles look like? Who do the people who work there look like? What do other job descriptions look, right? And getting context. And then general rule of thumb, like keep it to a page, right? If Jasmine is reviewing, you know, hundreds of resumes or working with our hiring managers, right? We have a few minutes to look at each resume, if that, right? I think industry average is like 6 to 10 seconds, right? So just like a YouTube ad, you can get, you know, next. But in order to stay top of mind and show your worth, as Rachel mentioned, it's being in alignment with, have exactly the skill sets that you need. And if you look at my LinkedIn, for example, 80% of my summary is like what I do. And then there's like 2 sentences that say, I love 90s hip hop, I love nature, and I love food. That's it. Like, that's true. I don't have to make that up. It's not, right? But majority of it, when somebody comes to my page, is like, oh, okay, this person is a talent expert or a recruiting leader.
Yep, and there was a question that came in. I'm going to attempt to try to ask it about girls who code. Like, should you be putting that on your resume? Where do you put it? Absolutely, you put it. And what do you mean? Girls Who Code is a global, amazing network of the future leaders, well, the leaders of this world, right?
You better.
Yeah, you better. Better put Girls Who Code, but also on LinkedIn, you can put it as well. You can put it, LinkedIn has a, organizational affiliation category that's at the bottom. It's not towards the top, but you can put organizations that you belong to. Of course, Girls Who Code has a company page on LinkedIn, so you can add it and then add alumni. Okay, so please add that on. So panelists, we are getting towards the end, and I want you all, first of all, thank you. What a brilliant dynamic group of leaders. Thank you so much. Can you give like a word of wisdom to close us out? We'll start from Jasmine and work our way to Anthony. Can you just share one powerful takeaway for today for our scholars?
Yeah, so nobody knows you better than you, right? Nobody can tell your story better than you can. And so the ability to weave your authenticity and your impact and your knowledge is just a powerful story to tell. And you know, the future is female. No shade, Anthony.
All good. Words of wisdom, I would say, if I had to like give advice that I wanted to hear years ago and that I'm still implementing, is 2 things. One is Jay Shetty, he's a kind of like a spiritual teacher. I followed and read some of his books, and he had a quote, and he said, you can only take the world as far as you've traveled internally. Which Lauryn Hill also said, you know, how you gonna win if you ain't right with it? So it's like, also, all of what we don't expect to take everything we said today and just go apply it and it just work tomorrow, right? Like, this is a journey. Be kind to yourself. And then the other thing I would say is be of service. The reason that I'm on this panel, the reason I've gotten so many opportunities is because I've gone out of my way to help others. So yes, I know it's a global pandemic. You know, you're looking for internships or you're changing jobs or maybe even lost a job, but always be thinking about how you can add value to someone else. And I promise you, like, later down in your career, like, those things start to come back tenfold when you least expect them. Yeah, be of service and go within.
Rachel, oh, shoot, you're unmuting. Yes.
Oh, I got it. So, and there's my son again, which is also the be yourself, which sometimes is with a kid. So, sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay, so my really would be yourself, right? Is honestly number one, be who you are, right? And that's kind of an ode to everything that Jasmine was saying, be yourself. But I think the bigger thing sometimes is don't overthink it. I know you guys are probably literally like trying to take notes and everything we're saying. They're like, okay, you need this in this section, this and this. Okay, only one page. Like, but don't overthink it. And I think Anthony mentioned at one point, like, you have time to learn all of these things. Like, just focus on one thing at a time. These skills, they come with time. Like I said, you're going to iterate a million times on your resume. So don't put so much pressure on yourself, right? That it's stressing yourself out, or you're feeling like you're not succeeding, right? I would say give yourself grace, if anything. It's something that you have to continuously tell yourself throughout your career. You'll continuously tell yourself is give yourself grace. Looking at Jasmine. So give yourself grace, be yourself, don't overthink it.
Yeah.
It's turning into church as we're closing it down.
Exactly. It's so funny because Rachel took what I was going to say, give yourself grace. So we're all this panelist team is connected, and we're preparing to close out with our 5 minutes that's left. Everybody who came today made time in the summer. It's almost 8 o'clock on the East Coast. To be here, to get this information, to connect. We're so proud of you. We're rooting you on. We know that the journey to tech is not an easy one, but the fact that you're here is already showing that you have what it takes. So we are rooting you on. I want you to let us know by completing the 1-minute survey. So I believe that there's going to be a survey that you'll receive, and we're going to ask you to add feedback on today's conversation. Girls Who Code staff want to see the feedback, and the panelists do too. So please pull out your phone and go to your camera. Hold your camera over the QR code on your screen. Capture it, and then we want you to fill out the survey, okay? So that's how we are ending tonight. We want you all to stay safe, stay healthy, and we're excited to support you through the journey. I think you'll get our contact information through the Girls Who Code team. So thank you on behalf of the panelists, okay? Bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, everyone.